Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a quick recap on where we are at the moment. We've just created this GameState blueprint um, and set that to want to override my GameState. So this now is something that the game mode will initiate or initialize and run it as soon as the game kind of launches. And what we're doing in here is taking our data structure that we created in the earlier tutorial, and we are we've got all this data here, and what we want to do is populate that data inside of a deck, and that deck will be an array of like this structure with views, subscriptions, uploads, and position, which kind of tallies with what the columns are in our data structure. So we have basically a duplicate of our table in kind of a variable. Okay, and we're going to just what we're going to do when we query the the value of the player's hand, we're going to just stipulate which one of those cards we're talking about, and we can just reference one item and not have to pass the whole table across. Okay, so as it happens, we have got an event begin play in this. I did get you to delete it, but we do need it. So it's this event begin play function or event, and this is one that the GameState will call. The game mode will call our GameState, and the GameState will automatically run the event begin play. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this into a sequence like so, and we are going to call this function here first of all. So I'm going to call deal cards, and that function exists because we created it. So this is a custom function, and this is us calling that custom function, and this is just like me kind of attaching that to this, more or less. And then we're going to do something very kind of networky, multiplayer-esque now. We're going to take our second row in the sequence. We're going to call the switch has authority node. Okay, so you can see that comes under the networking tab, and so what you're looking at here is basically something that a host can execute and something that a client can execute. Okay, so the client won't be able to run that, and effectively that's how this node works. The client doesn't run anything without unless it has authority. Okay, or it never has authority. Only the server can run this. So this can only run on the device or the game, the player's version of the game which has been set up or set the game up. He is the server, he's the host. So when if we deploy this to a dedicated server, the client would never be able to run. You'd never get anybody set up as a host. They would only ever sort of be able to run stuff as remote. Okay, and the logic, hopefully, as we go through this, will become a little bit more apparent. So I'm just going to kind of plow through it now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two new functions. Okay, so we need a way of determining in our logic who I'm talking to. Am I talking to the host or the client? Am I talking between? Because we're dealing with that sort of gameplay. We've got a client-host set up with our networking. So work on a local area network. Somebody starts the game, another person connects to that player, and they can play each other. But one has to be the host and one has to be the client. So I'm going to create a new function down here. So search for custom event, and this is going to be my client. That we call it the HUD. It's not really the HUD, but we'll call it we'll leave it as client HUD. And we're going to create another function, custom function event, custom event, and this is your host HUD, like so. And we're going to set these, and this is the networky stuff as well. So this one is going to be execute on owning client, and the host HUD is going to be execute on run on server, like so. Alright, so what we're going to do is we need to get a reference to our player controller, because if you remember going back to the earlier tutorial, this is where we set up our UI and we create this thing here. Alright, we create a widget, and when we set the widget variable to be my HUD, my HUD widget. Okay, so when we create this client HUD, we want to effectively say this is your HUD, you are the client, or you are the server, the host. So we're going to cast to my my player controller, and we need to get the player controller, like so. Okay, and this is kind of a check to see that, you know, I'm casting to my player controller and that I am the player. And now that we've done that, we can come off this node here and search for and I called it HUD widget, didn't I? Get HUD widget. Okay, so that is referencing this. Alright, and we are going to set, so that we don't have to do this every time we, you know, kind of talk to that player controller or call, you know, that player controller. We're going to create a new variable that kind of defines one from the other. So we're going to call this the client HUD. It won't let me because I've got one called client HUD. My event's called client HUD. Client HUD widget, like that. And this is going to be a widget. It's going to be my widget, in fact. So reference to my widget. Okay, and it's not going to be an array. It's just going to be a unique reference to my widget. Okay, and that's my widget there, look. So let's go back here. I'll create client HUD widget. I'm going to create a new variable. Come on. And this one's host HUD widget. Okay, and it's defaulted to my widget as well. And so we take the client host widget and we set it. I'm going to set it to reference my HUD widget from my player controller. Okay, so now we've got a variable in my GameState blueprint that is a reference to the client's HUD, and we can then, what we're going to do, kind of copy this like that, Control C, Control V, do the same for the server, or for the host. I'm going to take the host widget and set that, and come from here, go into there, like so. Alright, so that kind of helps us just speed things up. You know, it'll make the code a bit tidier later. We don't have to repeat this code when we're talking to a control, you know, to the client, and this code when we're talking to the host. but what we will need to do is just give a bit of a delay here. So anything networking related tends to have kind of, you know, need some time to propagate across the network. Okay, so let's give that 0.5 seconds, something like that. Duplicate. Do the same here. So create a little delay there. We're going to compile and save, and then finally what we're going to do is we are going to call from the remote branch here the client HUD, and then from pin 2 we're going to call server. Oh, it wasn't called server, it's called host HUD, like so. Alright, so I could have put the authority in there. I just don't think you need it. So I'm creating a remote. I'm giving the remote client a reference to my client HUD, and I'm giving my host a reference to his HUD. So compile, save. Alright, and we'll leave it there, and we'll come and pick that up and finish this off in the next tutorial. So save.